immigrants are placed in detention centers on Lampedusa that can become overcrowded, unsanitary, and rampant with infectious diseases. In 2011, more than 800 angry immigrants set fire to their holding facility in Lampedusa. After escaping over its balcony walls, they fled throughout the small island. The massive escape caused residents to panic, especially after some of the immigrants threatened to blow up gas canisters. From Lampedusa, the immigrants are transported by ship to holding centers scattered around Italy. From there, immigration officials begin the difficult process of deportation. But it is a process that is rarely successful, especially since immigrants arrive without documents and refuse to disclose their home country.
Questo sarà la grande questione degli anni a venire in Italia e in Europa, perché a fronte di una natalità molto bassa in Italia c'è invece una natalità molto elevata da parte del popolo musulmano. Quindi ci sarà una grande crescita di persone di origine musulmana in Italia e in Europa nei prossimi anni.
Most of our immigrants who are not legal tend to come from Islamic countries, from North Africa. A lot come through Spain, they come through the Canary Islands, they come through Italy. Being in the common market, which is now the European Union, we have a lot of porous borders with very little control. People can come in from virtually anywhere. France has about 6.5 million Muslims. It has more Muslims than any others. Germany has 3.8 million. Most of those happen to be Turkish. We have a problem that Islam has had massive migration, using it to its advantage. And we have the younger generations are becoming more radical, where their parents had come over and had tried to fit in. Their offspring, people like the Al-Mujahirun group, most of their main leaders are born here, and they are more radical than their parents.
In the end, due to politics, money, and international pressure, only a handful of illegals are ever returned home.
Ci ha sconvolsolato un poco questo fattore clandestino. Allora, prima arrivavano a 20, a 10, a 5, era tutto tranquillo. E poi, non lo so, è successo che sono arrivati a centinaia. Non so quanto voluto, non so quanto è, ma è stato molto disastroso.
Degli islamici che adesso noi stiamo aiutando, proteggendo, aiutando in tutti i modi, attraverso sovvenzioni, finanziamento, diamo tutti gli aiuti possibili e immaginabili. La casa, buoni pasto, non pagano i servizi pubblici, non pagano asili per i bambini, non pagano niente.
Now you have all these programs funded by the poor taxpayer all over Europe, trying to get these poor Muslims to integrate. You have all these language courses paid for by the Austrian government, by the Austrian taxpayer. But these people have no interest. It is actually against their religion to integrate.
Che credo che la definizione giusta sarebbe che Sezze è un paese dormitorio, dove non ha un indirizzo politico, non ha industrie, non c'è agricoltura, non c'è un vero e proprio indirizzo turistico, nulla di questo, quindi è considerato come un paese dormitorio, avendo Sezze la stazione ferroviaria che gli permette a loro di fare la scuola probabilmente, Sezze, Roma, senza pagare il biglietto e tutte le belle cose.
Although the sheer number of illegal Muslims arriving may overwhelm Italy, most of the immigrants do not make Italy their final destination. Instead, Muslims only enter Italy because its porous borders and because the rest of Europe is only a high-speed train ride away.
Noi sappiamo che molti immigrati clandestini non si vogliono fermare in Italia. I tunisini e gli algerini vogliono andare in Francia. Gli afghani vogliono andare in Gran Bretagna, i pakistani, molti pakistani vogliono andare in Olanda o in Svezia, dove oltretutto li trattano molto meglio che qui.
After the creation of the European Union in 1993, free and unhindered movement became a reality in Western Europe. Europeans can now travel throughout its 28 member states without restrictive passports. This enables Muslim immigrants in Italy who are given national residence permits to simply hop on a train. They can then reconnect with relatives and family members in such faraway countries as Belgium, the Netherlands, France, and Germany.
What most people need to realize is that the European Union has now become a real union, just like in the United States, different nations, but you do not need anymore a passport. There's no more borders between Italy and France, France and Germany, France and the UK, Ireland, and so on. So all the European nations, Holland, they are all connected, and you just take the car and go right across. You take the train and you go right across. So once that you are in Italy, you are practically in every other nation in Europe.
But immigration is not the only form of invasion among Muslims attempting to besiege Europe. Another group of mass Muslim arrivals comes in the form of asylum seekers and family reunification programs. In recent years, millions of asylum seekers have illegally entered Europe seeking refugee status. The dramatic increase over previous decades has been fueled by a multi-billion-dollar-a-year business of human traffickers. Though not all refugees come from Muslim countries, many do arrive from Iraq, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and North African nations. The number of asylum seekers arriving in the EU member states in 2011 increased by an astounding 325% over 2010, with most refugees seeking residence in Germany, France, Belgium, and Italy. Beyond asylum seekers, Muslims have also poured into Western Europe through family reunification programs. These programs allow Muslim families in foreign countries to reunite with their relatives in Western Europe. The program allows for spouses, children, fiancés, dependents of students, and even the dependents of asylum seekers to apply for family reunification.
Well, in the 1960s, we had something like 80,000 Muslims in Britain, and they've been growing roughly doubling every decade. So by the time you got to 1990, we had 1 million. By 2000, 2 million. By 2010, somewhere between 3 and 4 million. So it's, you push that forward, of course, and you're suddenly looking at 6 million, 12 million, 24 million, if they continue as they are. And family reunification comes into it, because they can send home the wives, up to 4, of course, and they come over, have plenty of children, as we know now.
The flow of Muslim immigrants, asylum seekers, and the practice of family reunification programs are 3 paths of Islamic growth in Europe. But a 4th path, which some claim may be the most challenging, comes in the form of Muslim birth rates.
The internet is flowing with doomsday accounts of Muslim population growth in Europe. These fears are driven by a number of factors, including the Muslim practice of polygamous marriages and their religious ban against abortion and contraceptives.
In 2009, a video surfaced on the internet that sent shockwaves throughout the West and became a worldwide sensation. Titled, "Muslims Are Taking Over the World," the video has been seen by more than 14 million viewers. The filmmaker dramatically contrasts the low fertility rate of non-Muslims with that of Muslim families. In a matter of years, the film warns, Europe as we know it will cease to exist. According to the video, Muslims are having 8.1 children per family in France, while in the Netherlands, 50% of all newborns are Muslim. With 52 million Muslims now living in Europe, the film predicts that this number will double in the next 20 years. The producers call upon its viewers to wake up, claiming this is a call to action. The evidence behind this alarming video have been debated and disputed by scores of demographers, population experts, and even conservative think tanks. In the end, the true facts of Muslim birth rates in Europe may never be known. That's because the European Union bars questions of religious identity from its surveys. Few in Europe were ever aware of radical Islam before February 14, 1989. That's the date Ayatollah Khomeini of Iran issued a death fatwa against a British Indian novelist, Sir Ahmed Salman Rushdie. Rushdie had written a fictional novel called The Satanic Verses. The book's title refers to certain Quranic verses that allow for prayers to be made by pagan goddesses. Its publication caused an immediate uprising in the Islamic world. Nearly the entire Muslim population considered the book's contents blasphemous to the Prophet Muhammad.
Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has repeated the death sentence against the author Salman Rushdie.
They were, it wasn't just a question of burning books and burning little straw effigies in Hyde Park. That alone shocked people. But for them to call for the death of somebody, and I think the British political establishment should then have stood up and they should have done something about it there and then. They should have made a move. People who were inciting murder, which is against the law, should have been prosecuted.
In other parts of the world, riots erupted. Translators and publishers were assaulted, injured, knifed, shot, and killed. Bookstores were firebombed, and embassies were forced to be closed. Even folk singer Cat Stevens, who now calls himself Yusuf Islam, went on British television and called for the death of Rushdie. Europeans would quickly learn that extreme Islam was not exclusive to such faraway Muslim countries as Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Egypt, or Saudi Arabia. Radical Islam was now on their streets, in their mosques, in their communities, and arriving daily through their open borders.
You know what we say? Your British ship can go to hell!
In the years following the Rushdie riots, Europeans began witnessing an ever-increasing presence of women wearing burqas, halal food in their shops, Muslims taking over streets for prayer services, and demands for Islamic law and Sharia compliance. The surge of Islamic extremism across Europe has given growth to numerous opposition groups. There are now demands for an end to the building of new mosques, for the deportation of Muslim extremists, for the passage of strict immigration laws, for the banning of burqas, and for the rejection of any type of Sharia concessions. What Europeans fear most about Islam are the extremists. And while there are questions about how many Islamic radicals live in Europe, there's no question about who is doing the radicalization: imams. Imams are the spiritual leaders of the Sunni branch of Islam, which dominates Europe. They are teachers and prayer leaders of the Muslim faithful. In Europe, most trained imams come from overseas. Some of these imams are considered moderate, such as those arriving out of Turkey and Jordan, but most are considered hardline fundamentalist, such as those coming from Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Egypt. These imams hold harsh religious views on the treatment of women and homosexuals. They support blasphemy laws, which allow severe punishment, even death, for insulting Islam. They enact bans on alcohol and contraception, and they routinely attack Western culture, its freedoms, and democracy.
Currently, there are over 6,000 mosques in Europe, with hundreds of new ones being built each year. In 2013, France alone witnessed over 150 new mosques under construction. And with each passing year, new mosques grow larger, become more lavish, more grandeur, and reach higher into the skyline. Many are now being built as mega mosques that can seat over 12,000 worshippers.
Though strident Islam is taught in virtually every mosque, big or small, self-proclaimed imams, meaning those without any formal training, teach the most extremist Islam. These self-proclaimed imams operate in the thousands of small and unassuming cottage mosques throughout Europe, such as in bookstores, abandoned warehouses, apartment buildings, and even abandoned churches.
A cellar mosque is like a normal mosque is a big building built to be a mosque. A cellar mosque is a phenomenon where they just take an ordinary cellar or an apartment that it wasn't built for having sermons in it, but they use it anyway as a mosque. So that's what we call a cellar mosque.
The arming oneself is done through mosques. This is another thing the public doesn't know, which I tell them all the time whenever I can.